Hi, hello, welcome back to another episode of Inner Monologues. So today's question is ethics versus outcome-based decisions, ethical choices and outcome-based choices. See, most people imagine ethics as a simple choice between the right and wrong. See, it can be true in many situations, but real life is really more complicated than that because there's no such thing as black and white in life. It's all grey. Some of the hardest moral questionings, especially those involving, human affairs or human lives, are not simply about choosing good over evil. There are so many such situations. What am I trying to say is that, okay, let's go from basics. How do duty-based ethical standards and outcome-based ethical standards differ? Ethical standards help to create a culture of trust and integrity. So it's like I have a set of ethics, like let's say I do not lie. So that means I will follow it under any situation. No matter what the situation is, I will not lie. And these ethical standards are used in some businesses also. It's like when employees know that their employers expect them to behave ethically, they are more likely to act with honesty and integrity in their work. And in addition, ethical standards can help protect businesses from legal liabilities. Like, they keeping a clear expectation for the employee's behavior. Like, businesses can reduce the likelihood of employee misconduct if that could lead to lawsuits. That's basically ethical standards. Like, if I have a set of ethics, like I will not do this, I will not do that, I follow this principle, then no matter what, I'm going to follow this only. So making any decision in my life based on my ethics. Another one is outcome-based ethical standards. One is duty-based ethical standard, which I explained before. Next is outcome-based ethical standards. Duty-based is when you are what I said was duty. I'm going to continue about outcome-based. Outcome-based is when it's like it focuses on the consequence, like any possible consequence for whatever action that you're going to take. On the other hand, the other one, like which I told, duty or ethics standards and all of that, they focus on the course of action, what decision that you have to take, what you have to take. But outcome based is about what is the consequence of your decision. Duty-based ethical standards are not concerned with what will happen if a particular course of action is taken. Instead, they focus on what one must do in a given situation, regardless of the consequence. Additionally, duty-based ethical standards, they require individuals to do what is right, regardless of the consequence. But outcome-based ethical standards need individuals to do what is likely to produce the best outcome for everyone involved. That is outcome-based. As you can see from what I'm saying, I'm more biased for outcome-based. There are a lot of academic work related on this. Like, what do I mean by academic work? Like, classical moral philosophy classes or courses have written a lot of subjects on this. So there's a lot of philosophical points I like to talk about today. So there's a lot of even religions talk about this. Eventually, religion all boils down to philosophy. All of them are just different philosophies. Okay, let's say we have examples like a doctor. We have limited medicine and they must decide which patient receives it first. All of that is there. That is one scenario. Another one is a government may have to choose between national security and civil liberty. Or there's a business that needs to balance profitability, workers' welfare and affordability for the customers. So in each of these cases, the question is not like simply what is right. But the question should be which right can be prioritized and what harm can be minimized. That is what you can do. See, whenever ethics or any decision needs to be taken, a lot of things are taken into consideration. It can be anything. Like, it can be about freedom, quality, security, privacy, merit, equity, tradition, reform. All of these factors must be balancing each other. One cannot be picked and one cannot be dropped at someone's whim and fancy. See, even at the personal level, they appear everywhere. This ethical dilemmas and all of that. It can work anywhere. It comes everywhere. It can come in your family, your work, money, parenting, your friendship. And it appears in a very broader spectrum as well. Law, economics, medicine, war, technology, public policy, governance. Human life is complicated. because all our values are conflicting with each other. Freedom may conflict with equality and security. That's what happens with a lot of people. Loyalty may conflict with truth. Equality may conflict with efficiency. Compassion may conflict with rules. There is no serious moral framework. Like, you cannot follow something like this situation, only this has to be done, because everything is a highly evolving situation, and depending on the players involved, you can take different decisions, and the only goal should be is minimizing damage. There are different philosophies or whatever ways of thinking. One is something called utilitarianism. So it's like considered like a famous way of approaching ethical dilemmas. It's like asking which is the best approach, what can I do that will produce the best result for a lot large number of people. So it's like it seems like a very attractive thing because it works in real life. So if I need to give a lot of money somewhere, I will give it to somebody, like to a large number of people where a lot of suffering can be reduced. But this point of thinking or line of thinking has also a weakness, because whatever I do, or it can even justify sacrificing if it's going to benefit a lot, large number of people. So people can argue that I can discriminate, one person is suffering, 5 people are also suffering. I can justify the suffering of the one person because I'm going to save 5. So it is little dangerous because each one of them is suffering, right? We cannot just deny them their right to suffering or moral worth and all of that. Next is another thing called Aristotelian ethics, Aristotle as the name suggests. So it's like it shifts attention from rules and consequences to character. It's basically like virtue ethics, what I said, duty based. Like, you have a set of ethics and you have to do according to that. It's useful in personal life, family disputes, or workplace tension and all of that. You can question based on your character. Was I arrogant or humble with that discussion? Was I just revengeful? Was I courageous or like a coward? All of that you can think. See, there are also a lot of weaknesses with this because it does not give a precise answer. Every situation, different people will have different point of views. Courage may demand us to speak really bold, but wisdom demands a lot of silence, and it's really hard to control people and ourselves too. What about another concept is called deontology. It was basically, it's like, what is my duty regardless of the outcome? So this is similar to what I said about duty based ethical decisions. Like, my principles, my ethics. What is my dharma? Regardless of the outcome, I should do that. For example, even if lying produces a convenient result, this framework may still say lying is wrong, because truthfulness is a duty. The strength of this, I can say, is that it protects moral principles from being crushed by convenience. It reminds us that lines should never be crossed. But something similar to this was told by Bhishma. Bhishma from Mahabharata, you guys remember? Yeah. So Bhishma had narrated a story of a sage to Yudhisthar to explain the complexities of truth and lying in the Mahabharata. So basically the sage went to hell because his rigid penance on all of that to not lie. So basically he was telling the truth caused innocent people to be murdered. So basically this sage, Kaushika, if I'm not wrong, he had took a strict vow to never speak a lie under any circumstance. So what happened when he was meditating, a group of travelers were fleeing from armed robbers. So the sage was there. So the robbers had asked the sage, where did those travelers go? And then he is not supposed to lie, right? Like, it's his oath. So because of that literal interpretation of his vow, the sage told the robbers the exact location of the travelers, like which side they went and where they're hiding and all of that. So as a result, the robbers found them, killed them, and took their stuff. So this truth telling directly resulted in loss of innocent lives. So that sage died and he suffered in hell, was what Bhishma pitamaha explained. So basically what is the thing is that dharma is highly subtle. That's what the Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata talks about. Truth is a virtue, I agree, but context matters. Preserving a life, protecting the innocent, or preventing evil actions, it takes precedence over literal repetition of a fact. If a lie that saves lives is considered the equivalent of a truth, while a brutal, destructive truth can be a sin. That's like a beautiful example. Like, I definitely believe outcome based ethical decisions are to be taken. That was about deontology, Mahabharata, and all of that. Now, there's another thing called care ethics, something that emphasizes relationship, empathy, dependency, responsibility, and it asks the question basically like, who is vulnerable and what do I owe to the people connected to me. So there are lots of reels, like I've seen, like loophole of friendship, so I'm telling you the gossip, like those kind of things. So it's like some friend told you something and you're going and telling it to your best friend because you don't want to hold this information from your best friend because they are connected to you. At the same time, you're disregarding the friend who told you. They trusted you and you didn't care about that. That's a little weird thing, but that's the thing about care ethics. Care for one's own group can become favoritism if it ignores justice towards the outsider. That is my opinion about care ethics. And I've read that in different religions it has been interpreted differently and how they do it. There's a lot of dilemmas everybody goes through in their personal life and at a larger scale in societies and policy makers, but they need to somehow pick a solution. One reform may solve one problem, but it might create another. A good leader may need to choose between imperfect options. This does not mean ethics is meaningless, but requires a lot more seriousness. Even when people share a common ethical framework, they might arrive at different solutions when facing a difficult moral dilemma. Ethical dilemmas should make us humble, but they should not, be really, differentiate people a lot. Moral choices are difficult, but does not mean that all choices are equally valid. You cannot lie. I mean, if you can't just tell the truth, like if you're like how the sage ka story. If I'm going to be lying, if it's going to save lives, it's good. I think it's important to understand that aspect. Outcome-based decision making is the way to go. And I completely stand with that. If you're agreeing with me, let me know. If you're disagreeing with me, drop a DM and we can discuss further. Thank you so much for listening to this episode.